Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Donut Shop podcast. Not the actual podcast, but coffee and donuts. And I'm doing something a little different today. Just kind of gonna hang out for a second and let some people get in. But I am on Instagram too. I use I use StreamYard, and StreamYard had this new announcement that says, hey, we're going to Mars, or whatever they want to call it. But they allow me to stream. One of the original issues with streaming to Instagram, I don't think it allowed it to stream to Instagram, mostly because Instagram is based on vertical video. Well, now you could do Instagram through StreamYard, but you couldn't, like, say, simultaneously stream to YouTube. So now they give the ability to stream vertically on Instagram and 16:9 horizontal normal for YouTube. So now I'm on both. So we'll see what happens. Supposedly the chat will mix. Like, you'll see anybody that might comment on Instagram, you'll see them comment over in the same chat role on YouTube, maybe. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm back for this Sunday's edition of Coffee and Donuts. I do have some mini donuts that I bought last week while on the road. I'll talk about that in a second. So whoa, almost spilled my coffee all over. And cheers. So coffee and donuts Sunday morning to check in and say what's up. Last week I was out of town with my wife. She took a huge test for her certified hand therapist. She's an occupational therapist, so it was a big test that she took last week. And I'm telling everybody, she doesn't necessarily want me to, because, if she didn't do so well, which I know she did do well, she doesn't want to have to explain to everybody. But it's a crazy test. It's a 50% pass rate. So there's a lot of people that don't do well, especially on their first go around. So she's pretty nervous and won't find out till like Christmas time. Like, talk about stress. So so last week, right after that test, we shipped it up to Orlando for the weekend, and we went to the Lainey Wilson concert. It was awesome. It was Saturday night in downtown Orlando at the Kia Center. That's what they call it now. The arena where the Orlando Magic play. She was there, Lainey Wilson was there. It was a great show. She had some awesome openers. This guy, Ernest, was one of her openers, and he is a songwriter and has done a lot of songs for, big name artists. So he played some of those, and then he also played some of his own. And it was the last show of the tour. I've seen, being in Florida, when you look at tour schedules, a lot of times recording artists either start their tours in South Florida or Florida area, and then they work their way through the country. Or they started it over on the West Coast, like California or Washington, and then they work their way across the country towards the South. So you can kind of pick which you prefer. Either you want to be like the first show of a concert tour, because hopefully all the swag is still available. But sometimes the recording artists and their bands and stuff maybe just came off of practicing for the tour, so they're not totally honed in, or they don't have some inside jokes figured out or something like that. So it's sometimes it might be, although good shows, might be a little more of a dull concert. So I'm talking about this stuff if you guys even care, but I love concerts and I love going to them. So but like I said, I've caught a few end of the tour, like last night of the tour, and those always seem to be super fun. It's not like the band. I mean, these bands play the same songs night in, night out for a lot of their career, so it's not like being on tour with some of these songs they get tired of them. They're still playing them. They still know they got to make money, but they end up kind of goofing around or having jokes on the stage. So for instance, during Lainey Wilson's set, she's supposed to do a duet with the guy Ernest, and he came out in some of her clothes. Like he had put like some tight pants, some tight bell bottoms on, and like one of her jackets and a blonde wig, and like walked out to play. And it was pretty hilarious of a prank. So they did some other stuff like that during the show. And then I've been to I saw a show years ago, Nonpoint and Cold closing out a tour in at the Hard Rock Live in Orlando, and they came out and did like they had feather pillows, and they were just like beating the crap out of each other with feather pillows. They shaving creamed, sprayed shaving cream all over the stage, like just just letting off steam from the tour, I guess, or whatever. So it was funny to see that happen. And I don't think they can do that every freaking night, because especially if they mess up the equipment or whatever, and they need it the next night and the next stop on the tour, you're gonna have a little problem. So so it was cool, and it was a good stress relief for my wife to not be studying and hang out and enjoy the show and kind of get away and work on some stuff. So we had a blast, and that's what we were doing. And I kind of pitched it to her. I was like, hey, we could do coffee and donuts Sunday morning from like the hotel room, and you could join me. We do it from the iPad. It's not like I'm going to have the microphone and camera set up and stuff like that. But I was like, I think I can do it from my iPad and stream into YouTube. And she was like, if you want to. But then after a while, I was like, and then we stayed up late after the show to go get some pizza, because traffic was a nightmare. Because in Orlando, you also had an EDC or an EDM like dance show going on in downtown Orlando near the football field. So you had Electric Daisy Carnival going on. So there was a lot of people downtown. Like our show got out at our show got out at 11. So you had an arena, probably 10,000 people emptying out at 11. And then you had the the Electric Daisy Carnival getting out, I think at like midnight or just after midnight. And there was even more people. So when we were walking back to the car, because our car was basically locked in a garage because of gridlock, and we couldn't even get out of a parking space. So we were just like, let's go get some food. And we went and got some pizza. And I told her about what downtown Orlando used to be like back when I went there and went to college. So it was cool. All right, a little more, one more buddy donut. You guys can sit here and watch me eat donuts and drink coffee. Cheers to Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office. This was a Miami-Dade Police Department cup that I got during a training once. They lost an officer just over a week ago, or a deputy just over a week ago, tragically killed in the line of duty. Rest in peace, brother. His funeral and ceremony is this week, I think on the 17th at Marlins Park. But take a sip of this. Very sad. But if you see this, so this show I've gone over, or this show's had episodes talking about Miami-Dade Police Department. So you see they do have, or had, a star inside of a traditional police badge. So you can see that because they were originally a sheriff's department, and in the 60s, because of corruption, go figure, Miami, because of corruption, the governor at the time came in and took out the sheriff and made them a police department that was governed kind of by a police director, or by a public safety director, or by a director. And and then also, working with the county government. So the county government had a say in the police department, that kind of stuff. So there was checks and balances and sort of answer things that needed to be answered. Um, and then eventually, the last voting cycle, that well, the presidential election during the presidential election time, the Miami-Dade County voted for, and they previously they had voted to go back to being a sheriff's department, and then during the presidential election, they voted for an actual sheriff. So Sheriff Rosie Rosie Cordero Studs is the sheriff now. She's a really cool woman, nice person. I've met her a couple times, and so she's the sheriff now. So one of the reasons why I grabbed this cup out of the cabinet today is because I saw a couple posts from from a sheriff's deputy that I follow, and she was basically saying, like, out with the old, in with the new, not out of excitement, somewhat out of sadness, but she was saying, like, they're slowly changing out all their badges. I mean, it'd be a lot of money for the size of Miami-Dade to, in a transition to becoming sheriff's deputies, like, boom, overnight, wrap every single car or restripe every single car. So we know that there was going to be a transition where the patch is going to change, the uniform. I don't know if the uniform is going to change, but the cars are slowly getting switched out or restriped, that kind of stuff. So I think now they're at the phase where they're switching out their badges and they're going to stars. So in that former badge, the Miami-Dade Police Department badge, there was a star in there. Kind of, I don't know the full story behind it, but definitely probably pays an homage to the origins where it had a star before, or where they were a sheriff's office before. So now they're losing the traditional police officer badge, the shield. That's going to kind of fall off, and now they're going to go back to a star. So that officer, or that deputy, had posted the new badge, the new star badge, commonly worn by Florida sheriffs, the 5-point star. So it's cool. It's a change in law enforcement in South Florida. But obviously nothing's really changing. They're just, Rose by any other name kind of stuff. If you see down here at the bottom, I am running little tickers. These are fun things that I sort of created for our other show, one of the shows that I'm part of on Fridays at 3:00 in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. It's called Open Mic. It's with Counterculture, and it's going to have, at least on the regular, myself, Tyler from Anti-Hero Podcast, and Nick from Good Cop, Bad Cop Podcast. It's going to have the three of us. Once in a while, if we're not available, we might roll in Mike from Copville. And so the three of us are going to just kind of get together and sort of make it light and goof around. We're not necessarily going to do news stories or break down videos. Hey, if we're bored, we might break down a YouTube video or an Instagram video or something like that. But it's, a way, it's kind of like a Zoom business call is kind of what we plan on it being, where we're just sort of talking shop talk, podcast talk, messing with each other, busting balls, sort of blowing off some steam from the week. We used to do the show at 9:00 on Fridays, but that just sucked. 9:00 on Fridays, like, if you committed to it, that means you're not going out on a date Friday night, or you're not going out with a family Friday night, or you're not meeting up with friends, that kind of stuff. So that one, was always tough trying to wrangle people to get on the show, unless you just had no life whatsoever. So it was tough. So it ended up going by the wayside, with some of the transitions with Anti-Hero. So it kind of went by the wayside, and now we're resurrecting it. And so that's on the Counterculture YouTube channel. I'll throw this ticker back up. That's on the Counterculture YouTube channel. You can follow it and subscribe to get notifications whenever a show drops. We run a lot of live stuff off of the Counterculture page, or we run it in kind of conjunction to some of the other channels. Counterculture is sort of an overarching umbrella of multiple podcasts that are law enforcement, first responder, fire, and veteran based, that kind of support each other, help each other out, and sort of help brainstorm things. And then we do live events from time to time where we all get together and work together. So that channel is kind of a way for us to share some of our work. Plus there's a few shows that are solely on that. We produced the Other Than Honorable podcast. That show, was on there. Whether there's going to be a season 3 or not, yet to be seen. Hasn't been recorded yet, but we'll see. Maybe we can get those guys back in town and record some more episodes. And then you have Unfiltered and Unfazed. That's an all-female cast podcast, talking about, stuff that women might talk about, talking about society, talking about, all kinds of stuff. So, you can check that one out, and that's on the Counterculture Inc. YouTube page. So, but yeah, that's where these streams are going to be. So, and now that we can do this, like I'm doing where I'm streaming, I'm looking at the screen. You guys, if you're not on Instagram, aren't looking at it, but this is also streaming on Donut Shop Podcast's Instagram. And it's not just like I used to do where it was an announcement. So pretty cool that StreamYard can do that. And so I'm going to do that from going forward, because it'll bring more eyes to this. It'll bring more eyes to this. So apparently, yeah, it says I can't post. I'm not commenting. So yeah, I'm probably not seeing comments that are coming through on Instagram. I don't know. I'll run it and we'll see. So, yeah, I'll leave it up on so I could sit here and watch it. Plus it gives me more views. Yeah. All right. It's just weird watching my head bounce around on so many screens. So I made these tickers for the open mic, just to kind of give people information. But with the Anti-Hero broadcast doing multiple shows during the week, and they're sort of news based, or there's going to be, some topics coming up. I had suggestion that, hey, you type these topics out and roll them across the ticker at the bottom, so people know, like, hey, coming up is going to be, we're going to talk about this topic or whatever. That way, if people tune in, they can see on the bottom or on the top, if you're on Instagram, they can see on the ticker, they're about to talk about this topic, or this is coming up. All right, sweet. I'm going to keep watching and see what's going on, or see what they have to say. Plus you can run sponsors. Everybody does this. The news does this. Sports talk shows do this. So why aren't we doing this? And it's real easy. I can just sit here and type these things out. The problem is you need a producer, because if I'm sitting here running my mouth while typing, I'm not that great at being a one-man band just yet. I'm getting practice. But as some of you might know, coming up on the retirement date, looking forward to it. Gives me more time to do some of the stuff like this. But as it gets close, sometimes the nerves might start to kick in. I'm filling out various paperwork and sending it off to, the various parts of the department to say what's up, and do my separation stuff and all that. So it's a little nerve-wracking, but yeah, end of the year is coming quick for that few more weeks of work on patrol, pushing the car around. A lot of the guys on the road are kind of like, dude, what are you still doing here? Why are you on the road? And I'm like, well, want to keep doing the job. Or I like doing the job. I'm not being forced out, but it's a personal decision on me leaving. But, still like doing the job, still like working with everybody, and, out there protecting the citizens of my city, the people of my city, whatever you want to call it. So it's coming up. and slowly but surely, I was riding with my dad yesterday in the truck. We had to go up to Orlando to pick up some stuff for my mom that she needed from Disney, because she does work for the Flower and Garden Festival, and so we were picking it up from Disney Horticulture. And I was telling my dad, like, he's retired, and I was like, yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, vacations or things for us to go do, for my wife and I. And I'm just realizing, like, wait a minute, I don't have to ask anybody for permission, or I don't have to see if the calendar is available to take the days off. Like, I don't need to take days off because I will be off. So I gotta, sort of come to that rationale, because at least for this career that I've had, it's been 20 years of, checking the calendar and making sure I got the days off. She's still going to have to do it, but I will not. I will be able to pick up and go whenever the heck I want to go. So what's up, everybody else that's in here? I see there's a few of you. I see a couple of you over on Instagram. Thanks for checking out the show on Instagram. Type in or text on Instagram. Let me know how it's coming across, or how it looks. This is the new format that StreamYard allows us to do, and I'm kind of testing it out for some of the other shows that are in our network, to let them know that, hey, you can stream on Instagram, which Instagram's always very active. I know Mike tries to stream to you, or to his Facebook page, wherever we can get the most amount of eyes. So, hey, what's up? Looks and sounds great. All right, thanks, D Green. How are the Juliet's over on Instagram too. D Green, how's life going post working 911? This is she was a 911 dispatcher, came on the show probably a year ago, and did an episode, so she's checking it out. So what's up? What else we got? Yeah, pretty open week. It was what else? Oh yeah, so last week I didn't really talk about I mean, I think I did. No, because I didn't have a lead up. This wasn't a lead up to this week's episode. So if you haven't already checked out this past week's episode that I dropped with Matthew Handy, super interesting conversation. It was a 2-hour podcast, so it's a big chunk to bite off, to listen to. Feel free to listen anywhere you can. Listen often and multiple times if you want. But he was he formerly was homeless. He lived on the streets in San Diego during the pandemic kind of time. He was homeless, drug addicted. He used heroin, smoked weed. He even ended up kind of graduating to fentanyl, which he kind of explains in the podcast being totally different than the high, because fentanyl is a speed and heroin's more of a depressant. So it's totally a different high. And also I think he was kind of, if I remember correctly, he was explaining that it's a lot shorter. So that's part of one of the other problems, is causes people to redose or try to up the dose to get more of a high. And then that's where, first responders and society ends up getting involved, because these people are overdosing or even killing themselves. So he talked about homelessness, and then eventually at a point he decided that he was gonna run. He was gonna kill. Not kill. I'm sorry. He was gonna. I'm reading a text message from Tyler. He was gonna rob a bank. So he freaking robbed a bank during the pandemic, because he has to wear a mask into the bank, which I always thought was the funniest thing during the pandemic. So it was, he was allowed to rob a bank or he was allowed to go into a bank with a mask, which is what bank robbers do anyways. And he went in and he put a note up on the window, and he got a couple grand, sort of lived that life where, he was like, hooking other people up with money, giving them some money for hotels and stuff like that were on the streets. He sort of created like a whole big plan. And then if you listen to the podcast, you hear kind of just like a lot of criminals, how they get caught. So the way he got caught, he only robbed one bank, spoiler alert. But he ended up getting caught, and there was some other stuff that, sort of caught up to him, because during the pandemic, he figured out a scam where he was gonna, he told the cops, oh, I have COVID. So during the pandemic, none of us wanted to deal with COVID anyways, didn't want to get it or whatever. So he would just get dumped off in the hospital. And I guess what they would eventually do is they'd file the charges, and California or whoever would pick up the charges. So he ended up with multiple warrants, and once he finally got picked up post-pandemic and couldn't use his, I got COVID scam, and nobody believed it or nobody was worried about COVID, he, got picked up for that. Plus he got picked up for the robbery and all that kind of stuff. So he's got a pretty interesting story about that, he was really good. He was a really good guest. Really, I didn't have to do much. I just asked a question here or there, and he just took off, and he had all the stories and all the information. So it was a really good episode. I encourage you to check it out if you haven't already. And then he also talks about what he's doing now, where he owns a addiction recovery center in Houston. He lives in Houston now, and he's working with those people, having been through it himself. He's able to speak to it. So that's always some of the best some of the best stuff. So thanks, Julia, for sharing the addiction interview. I've had a couple guests lately with addiction interviews, which is very cool. Like I had JC from 3 a.m. Fog just before that he's a police officer, and he dealt with addiction, with alcoholism, and then eventually pills. And, he helps officers nowadays sort of, deal with those demons, with the trauma, with the stuff that they're gonna, end up that's causing it, because there's obviously a root cause to it. And some of it's interesting because now I have, I see it on the streets. And so I had this guy the other day that I had to roll up on that was like passed out at a bus stop sleeping. He had his little bottle of Skull next to him. And, I talked to him about these things, and he was talking about how, he needed to find his Medicaid card so that he could go up to this program and get some help and stuff. But, I was offering a little bit of counseling to him. He hadn't done anything illegal. Somebody just wanted to check on the well-being because they didn't know if he was dead or sleeping. And, turns out he was sleeping, and a woman that he knows lives around the corner. So we got a hold of her, and she came and picked him up and stuff. But it's a tough thing. Addiction. This guy's probably got stuff that he's dealt with. This guy was saying the first time he got a DUI was when he was 17 years old. So he had a DUI when he was 17, and he said he's had 12 DUIs ever since. So pretty crazy. I didn't offer an interview to him, but I'm sure, he's got some insight into it. I don't know if he'd be a great interview, because I don't know if he's necessarily open to change yet. I didn't talk to him that much. I'm talking to him in full uniform right there. So I don't think that, it would be completely the best, not that it wouldn't be the best message for a podcast, but I think it would pretty much be a open-ended story. Like, all right, did you learn anything from this? Like, and I'm not a therapist, so I don't know how much I can help fix him or change him. So such is life in law enforcement. We can't really fix everybody. But we can try. I told him he should try and get on ayahuasca or red laser therapy. I told him about some of the therapies that I've learned through this podcast from different people. So what's up? I see my boy Mike from Copville joined in over on the Instagram side of the house. I think Tyler saw this and was like, yo, this is perfect. We need to probably get this going for Anti-Hero Broadcast, share it on the IG. YouTube's great and all, but if you're trying to get the message out, or you're trying to advertise or get stuff out to your fans, you got fans, or you got viewers everywhere, different opportunities everywhere. So anybody else? No Jerry Worms in the comments today. Jerry seems like he's been extra busy lately. Got to check with our boy Jerry and see what's up. But yeah, for the rest of the day, got some housework to do. Got a gym. Got to go hit the gym, roll through some F45, and then I think that's it. I don't have much else. I didn't really put anything else. I actually no episode this week unless I scramble and do an episode. Let me know what you think, whoever's still watching or watching this on replay. I had a tip from my tax guy. I was talking to him about some stuff about the podcast, and so he checked out an episode, and although he knows me, he said, hey, maybe it'd be better, or maybe it'd be good if at the beginning of your podcast you dropped some information about yourself, kind of tell who you are for new people. And although I want to pretend like I'm famous and people already know who I am, I'm pretty sure most of the people watching this don't know who I am or why they're watching it. They're watching it for the guest. So I think it's probably smart for me to do. I'm going to kind of cut a little bio, just trying to think of what I want to do, like background, if I want to do it in here, outside, what do I want to do? But I might do like a little 1-minute intro about myself to front load on my episodes, just so people know, I'm going to practice it right now. Like, hey, I'm a police officer, 20-year veteran of a South Florida law enforcement agency that has done a lot of things, from patrol to school resource, crisis negotiation, union type stuff when I was on the union board, public information officer, community resource officer, and then of course patrol officer, mobile field force. So I'll work through some of that sort of in a speech to sort of give the viewer that is just joining the show, who's this other guy? Like, I'm here to watch whatever I saw on a reel or on a TikTok. I'm here to watch the full episode or listen to the full episode, but I don't even know who this guy is talking. So I think I may do that and kind of just drop that in after the intro for the podcast. And just do that and sort of introduce myself. People can always fast forward through some stuff if after 10 episodes they're like, all right, Justin, we know who the hell you are. But I think it'll be important to put that out. So I appreciate that kind of tip. Always looking for tips and tricks. I've done this specific podcast for 5 years, and then I did another one for another 5 years before that. So I've been in podcasting for a long enough time, but obviously I have not become famous from it. I just enjoy doing it, enjoy interviewing people, and enjoy giving tips that I've learned to other podcasts so that they can sort of be successful. So I think I'm always learning. I'm always growing as a podcast, just like taking up this Sunday morning show where I'm drinking coffee, and I brought 2 donuts in, so I've got another one. Oh, here's something. Speaking of donuts, not an advertising plug, but I should have run a commercial or something. Not an advertising plug, but you may have seen there's a previous episode. If you haven't, go check it out, with Parlor Donuts. They're a donut company out of Indiana that makes what they call a flaky layer donut. Some of us might call them a croissant, but due to naming rights, they're not allowed to use that word. But I don't work for them, so I can say it. So they they're always trying to, as a business, they're always trying to grow. They're always trying to figure out what they can do differently, because as a food store, you think donuts, all right, they're probably getting donuts sold in the morning as people are going to work. They might be going to work, or they might be going into an office. So they come through and they buy a dozen so that they can bring them into the office or something like that. And they make really good donuts. It's that croissant or flaky layer donut base. And then it's got some type of frosting or sweetness on top. Really good. One of the ones that I had that's a fall flavor for them is the cinnamon swirl. It was bomb ass. It was so good. So I had that one the other day, but this Fort Lauderdale branch has been able to, they signed on for the company to be a test market for what they call savory donuts. So you usually have with foods, you have sweet or savory, or like you have your sweet and your salt. So the savory donuts are a donut because it's got the base. So if you were just to eat their base quote donut, it's just going to be a bland croissant, like a normal croissant. It tastes good, but it's plain. So it's not necessarily sweet. It's not covered in sugar, all that kind of stuff. They add that later. You can then put other stuff. So just think pizza bagels, what else can you put on, breads? So they have a pepperoni pizza version. There's a margarita pizza or a margarita version. There's a chicken bacon ranch. And then there was a couple other ones that I didn't grab because they didn't really like excite me or make me think like, oh, I want that one. But shit, I love a pepperoni pizza. So they put some marinara sauce on there, put some mozzarella cheese, 3 or 4 pepperonis. You're done. You're golden. So I've been meaning to get in there. I've been wanting to get in there on one of my days off because it's a little bit of a hike for me to get out there downtown Fort Lauderdale. But I swung in, picked up a 6-pack, and just so I could try them. But I'll tell you, they're filling. They give you a card with a QR code that takes you to an actual survey, not just some like BS survey. This is like a corporate survey for them because they're always like looking for more information, more tips. And they said, pretend you're the chef. Like, what would you have us do different for this? And, so I gave him some thoughts. I thought it was great. My problem is I couldn't eat more than one. I ate one and then I cut one in half just because I really wanted to try it like fresh. And then I ate the cinnamon swirl donuts. So I was like dead to the world after because it's a lot of carbs. It's a lot of donuts. So I did not, I'd like to see them a little bit smaller, but how that works, or cut in half because their base donuts like this thick, which is, probably 2.5 inches, 3 inches thick almost. It's a thick donut. So I was kind of like, if you were to like a roll, slice it in half and then like open face it, and then you make 2 pizza donuts or 2 of those savory donuts just to give me a little less of the weight of the donut in my stomach, and then maybe I can eat 2, which is technically just the one. So that was just a thought. And then at that point, if you're slicing them in half, you can do what a lot of other places have done: slap some egg in there, slap a sausage patty or some bacon or just the eggs and some cheese, and now you've got a Parlor Donuts sandwich. Just some thoughts. But as I talk about it and wrap this little non-advertising setup that I just did for them, I put a video on my Instagram. It's also on YouTube. So look at it in the YouTube Shorts or the Instagram Reels for my page, kind of showing me picking them up and taking my first bites. So Juliet says Voodoo Donuts, the magic is in the hole. Voodoo Donuts I know is up in I know they're up at Universal Studios. I think I've had them before. They're pretty good, but I don't, I think it's more showy because like at Universal Studios, they have this big like chair and then they do like the whole voodoo thing. So kind of like the New Orleans, voodoo style stuff. So they kind of do that. It's a little Halloween based, and we always love our Halloween theming. So, but yeah, I don't think we have any in South Florida. And I know there's another donut shop called Hollywood Donuts in South Florida too. So it's cool. But yeah, that's what's going on today. And so yeah, I think I'll wrap it up. I've cooked through 40 minutes. I hope this Instagram thing, I think I'm going to try to leave it on Instagram and let people watch it. I don't know if it turns into a reel or how it stays on Instagram. Again, still learning. But obviously this will be up on YouTube, and then I'm going to load the video over onto the podcast side of the house on Spotify, Apple, and that kind of stuff. So thank you everybody for checking out the show and for sticking around if you're still here. And go to donutshoppodcast.com. Check out the other episodes. Check out the store. Support the store if you can. Grab a shirt, grab a mug, whatever you can. Support the show. And so thanks everybody for being here. And I should be here next week for another coffee and donuts. And then, Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for open mic on Counterculture. Check me out there. Check out all the other Counterculture shows. And that's enough advertising for everybody. So we'll see you later. Have a good one.
Calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.